Hey, 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 it's Stevie P in the place to be. And today I want to talk about the power of fiction. I've been writing a novel and some short stories recently, so I've really dove into the concept of fiction and how powerful the messages are that can be conveyed through fiction. And how much of an imagination factory it is because you're literally creating your own universes through writing fiction. And fiction is a powerful means of expressing ideas, concepts, themes, lessons, things like that. And it's powerful because people absorb fiction without that, like, the rigid walls of the ego and the logical mind. So let's say an argument or some lesson, or let's just say an argument, is presented through nonfiction. People have their guard up, especially people with rigid belief systems or rigid paradigms of reality. They're going to have their guard up when faced with a nonfiction book or something like that. If it contradicts their beliefs, they have their guard up. They're going to be cynical about it. They're going to try to debunk it in any way they can. Unless you're a very, very open-minded person who's open to new ideas and willing to change and evolve your ideas. But most people are rigid, and we all do it to some extent. So fiction kind of overrides that because it speaks straight to the more receptive parts of us. So lessons that are conveyed through fiction, ideas that are conveyed through fiction, people are more receptive to them. So even if someone doesn't believe a certain way, they will be more receptive to other ideas through fiction. And it's an interesting part of being human because, like, fiction, storytelling, all of that stuff, it's an intrinsic part of what it means to be human. And as a result, we're really receptive to it. And it makes us more open-minded, and it brings us back into those childlike qualities of imagination and that sense of wonder. And even if you don't agree with things that are conveyed in fiction, people entertain the ideas. So a lot of people almost drop that sense of, like, this has to be right when it comes to fiction. They're able to entertain all types of realities, all kinds of viewpoints. And that's the way everything should be, even nonfiction, in my opinion. So fiction speaks to that receptive part of all of us. And so that's why people don't just dismiss it by reflex action like they would do with nonfiction or things posed in a very strictly logical sense. And that's why that fiction is an incredible means of teaching. So you can teach people amazing things through fiction because they're more receptive. So it's a subtle way of, like I said before, expressing ideas and messages and things like that. And that's why I like, with my own writing, incorporating better ways of living, more harmonious means of existing, things like that, self-exploration. So I get these almost idealist visions or semi-utopian visions or utopian aspects of living, and I incorporate those. I weave those into the stories I write. So people get receptive to that and they start entertaining those kind of ideas. Because along with, I just love writing in the first place, and I love the act of creating and molding my own universe. But on top of that, who knows what people can do with that just tiny spark of information. I love that possibility of inspiring people. Because there's people that are a lot smarter than me that can invent all kinds of things or do all kinds of great things in the world, and sometimes they just need that little spark. So I hope to provide that spark. And this principle, it applies to a lot of things. It applies with fiction being receptive and telling stories in that way. It applies to metaphors. Like, people are really receptive to metaphors too, and if you use a metaphor when describing something or to try to get your point across, when you use a metaphor and people are more receptive to it, or they can wrap their heads around it more easily, because it's like a storytelling type of thing. When you use a metaphor, it creates an image in people's minds, so they'll more easily understand what you're trying to express. And also with the receptivity, that's why comedy is so effective too, because if you're getting people to laugh, they're more receptive as well. So this is why a lot of comedians are some of the smartest people on earth, and they convey deep, powerful messages through their comedy. But since it's told in jest, people are more receptive to those deep truths. You know, if Dave Chappelle or someone like that were just to get up there and preach, people wouldn't receive it as well as when it's told through comedy. So comedy is another excellent vehicle for telling truth and expressing some ideas and philosophical concepts and all of that. So yeah, that's all I got for today. Fiction is powerful. Like, I highly suggest to read fiction on a daily basis, and even write some of your own, because it's a great exercise for the imagination. Alright? Peace, much love, and one love, baby.